It all began quietly, without cameras, without noise, without the pressure of expectations. Lena and Miu were both still figuring things out about their roles, their careers, and more than anything, their connection to each other. No one knew yet that the project they were working on would become the biggest turning point of their journey, not even them. Their first rehearsal together was awkward but promising. Lena was calm, focused, thoughtful. Miu, on the other hand, was passionate, expressive, and always pushing the emotion higher. At first, their differences clashed. One rehearsed with silence, the other rehearsed with energy. One calculated, the other improvised. But then something shifted. During a late-night practice session, one no one asked them to attend, Lena stayed behind to fix a scene she felt wasn't strong enough. Minutes later, Miu walked in, not because she was told to, but because she didn't like leaving anything unfinished when Lena was still working. They didn't speak at first. They just blocked the scene again, and again, and again, until finally, it clicked. Their breaths synchronized, their movements matched. Their energy aligned as if they'd been performing together for years. That moment was the seed of everything they would build afterward. Day by day, the two of them pushed each other harder. If one improved, the other pushed to match it. If one discovered a new emotional layer, the other broke their comfort zone to respond truthfully. Their director noticed the shift immediately. Their co-stars did too. Suddenly, Lena and Miu weren't just good, they were becoming extraordinary. But excellence never comes easily. There were nights when exhaustion made them snap at each other. Days when misunderstandings slowed everything down. Times when pressure from fans, media, and their own expectations created a silent distance neither knew how to close. One evening, after a particularly tough and frustrating shoot, Miu walked off set thinking she had disappointed everyone. But before she could step outside, Lena followed her. Not loudly, not dramatically. She just placed a hand on Miu's shoulder and said quietly, "We're getting there. Don't give up now." Miu didn't respond. She didn't have to. That was the moment she realized Lena wasn't just a co-star. She was becoming her anchor. As weeks passed, their dedication became impossible to ignore. Other staff members started arriving earlier because Lena and Miu were already working. Camera operators stayed later because the two insisted on one more take. Their chemistry wasn't forced. It wasn't written. It wasn't something a director could create. It was real, earned, and built from the ground up. Behind closed doors, the two shared victories and frustrations like partners shaping something precious. They celebrated small improvements. They shared quiet moments of gratitude. They leaned on each other when scenes demanded emotional honesty that left them drained. Slowly, a phrase started circulating among the staff. Lena and Miu are building something. They didn't know what to call it, partnership, teamwork, magic, but they knew it was special. Then came the day everyone had been waiting for, the final rehearsal before the big emotional sequence. It was the make or break moment, the scene that would define their entire project. If they didn't nail it, everything else would fall flat. The crew held their breath. Lena entered the scene first, grounded and steady. Miu followed, heart in her throat but ready to trust every instinct they had shaped together. What happened next stunned the entire room. They didn't act. They lived. Every emotion felt raw. Every line carried weight. Every gesture, every glance, every breath. They weren't performing anymore. They were pouring their souls into the moment. When the scene ended, the room was silent. No one dared to break the emotion they had just witnessed. Then applause erupted. The director, speechless, walked up to them, placed a hand over his heart, and said, This is excellence. You built this." Lena and Miu looked at each other, exhausted but glowing. They knew it too. What they had created wasn't accidental. It wasn't luck. It was the result of every late night, every argument, every shared fear, every moment of trust. They had built something truly great. And when the episode finally aired, fans felt it instantly. They didn't just praise the acting, they praised the connection, the soul, the effort. Comments flooded in, calling their performance the most authentic of the year. Soon, interviews followed. Headlines erupted. And fans worldwide began saying the same thing. Lena and Miu didn't just act, they transformed. Both of them received messages from staff, friends, even celebrities congratulating them on their dedication. People said they set a new standard for what collaboration should look like. Others said they had the kind of partnership that only comes once in a generation. But the greatest congratulations came from each other. In a quiet moment after the production wrapped, Lena looked at Miu and said, "I couldn't have done this without you." Miu, emotional, nodded and replied, "We built this together." And that's how they went from effort to excellence, from uncertainty to legacy, from co-stars to something far stronger. Their journey is far from over. But one thing is certain, whatever they build next, it will be unforgettable. After the project wrapped, most actors would have taken a break, disconnected, or moved on to their next schedules. But Lena and Miu weren't quite ready to let go of what they had created. Something about the journey lingered between them, like unfinished business or an unspoken promise. A few days after filming ended, they returned to the studio, not because they had to, but because they missed the space where everything changed. The rehearsal room was quiet, the lights dimmed, and the echoes of their past scenes seemed to glow in the corners. Miu ran her fingers along the mirrored wall and whispered, almost to herself, "Feels strange without everyone here." Lena stood beside her, eyes soft but steady. "Feels like something's missing," she said. Miu looked at her. "Or someone." They shared a tiny smile neither tried to hide. Even without the cameras rolling, their connection felt sharper, clearer, almost more intense. For the first time in months, there was no script, no pressure, no expectations. Just them. They sat on the floor, backs against the mirror, legs stretched out, breathing in the quiet. Lena admitted something she had never said out loud, that she was afraid the final scene wouldn't work, that she had doubted herself even after all their progress. Miu listened silently, not interrupting, not judging, simply absorbing every word. When Lena finished, Miu leaned her head gently against her shoulder and said, "You never had to do it alone." It was such a simple statement, but it hit Lena harder than she expected. She didn't show emotion easily, but in that moment, she let her guard down. She let herself feel what it meant to be supported, understood, seen. From that day, their bond deepened in ways even the staff didn't know about. They began meeting regularly, sometimes in the old rehearsal room, sometimes at a small cafe hidden in the back streets, sometimes in each other's apartments when they needed privacy from the world. These weren't work meetings. They weren't practice sessions. They were conversations about life, dreams, fears, and the unexpected comfort they found in each other. One rainy evening, Miu arrived at Lena's home drenched, cold, and frustrated after a stressful meeting. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Lena simply handed her a towel, pulled her inside, and wrapped her in a blanket. They spent the night talking until their voices grew soft and their eyelids heavy. Miu fell asleep on Lena's couch, and Lena stayed up just a little longer, watching her breathe peacefully. She didn't know when it happened, but she realized she cared far more than she ever planned to. Meanwhile, the world outside had no idea. Fans were still celebrating their performances, praising their excellence, and shipping their undeniable chemistry. But even the most passionate fans didn't know how much deeper their connection had grown behind closed doors. Offers began to flood in, joint interviews, magazine shoots, another drama together. Agencies noticed the surge in popularity. Production companies wanted them as a package. Brands started requesting them in pairs because people believed in their energy. But not everything was easy. The attention became overwhelming. Rumors spread. Some were flattering, others invasive. There were whispers about how close they had become, questions about whether their bond was real or just for publicity. Miu felt pressure building again, afraid that the world would twist their truth into something complicated. One night, after a particularly harsh article surfaced online, Miu called Lena, voice shaky, asking if she could come over. Lena didn't hesitate. Minutes later, Miu was at her door, holding back tears she hadn't meant to cry. Lena didn't ask what happened. She simply pulled her into a hug, firm, grounding, real. For the first time, Miu didn't try to be strong. She let herself break a little. She let Lena hold her together. When she finally spoke, it was barely above a whisper. "Why does it feel like the world is against us?" Lena stroked her hair slowly and replied, "Because they don't know what we've built. But we do. That's enough." Miu pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, and what she saw made her breath catch. Calm strength, quiet certainty, something warmer than friendship and deeper than teamwork. It was a turning point neither expected. From that night on, they made an unspoken decision. No matter what came their way, rumors, pressure, schedules, or outside noise, they would protect what they had built. They would support each other relentlessly. They would lift each other up better than anyone else could. Their excellence wasn't just about acting anymore. Their journey wasn't just about a project. Their growth wasn't just for the cameras. They were building something real, something personal, something they cared about enough to fight for. Weeks later, when they returned to the set for a reunion event, people immediately noticed something different. A softness in the way Lena looked at Miu. A confidence in the way Miu stood beside her. A shared smile that only two people with a deep bond could understand. Co-stars whispered. Staff exchanged knowing looks. Even the director smiled quietly, as if he had been waiting for this to happen all along. Because excellence had brought them together. But something far stronger was keeping them there. And as new opportunities unfolded before them, one question lingered not only in the minds of fans, but also between Lena and Miu themselves. If they could build something this great together once, what else could they create next?